I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
That's Booby.
And Jumpy and Ghosty.
And that is baby Orion.
Oh,
huh?
Isn't it so cute?
He's eating his little
carrot.
His little carrot.
His little teeth are coming in.
He's at Grandma's house so that we can do some keep going on our recording binges. Mm-hmm. The sacrifices that we make for those we love. That's you guys, because we shipped our son off so that we could do these recordings for y'all.
I miss him.
This is for the big homie. I just saw this picture. What a disgusting.
Oh.
That's probably your idea.
No, it was not my idea.
This is for the big homie 7 Dusted.
Yep.
There are multiple ways to get your song reviewed, dear listener. There's the traditional way, email, Facebook, Instagram. There's my favorite way, $1 at the gate at Patreon, gets you into alliances. An alliance leader will contact you. It's genre specific, so we've got a death metal one, we got a black metal one, we got a power metal one, yada yada yada. And then there is also the Fast Pass, which is basically, it's $125, and you get jumped and skipped right to the head of the line. However, if you have 3 of the $75 picks from the previous rate, then you get grandfathered in, and you get to keep it at the $75 rate.
Just have to send us a message and say, hey, I was on Patreon before, or I was going through PayPal, this was my name, and I did it more than 3 times, and then I'll just...
If you did it via PayPal, and you did it via Patreon, or even a combination of the two, once we see that you did 3, then we're going to grandfather you in at the $75 rate.
Yep. Have no fear.
Have no fear! Okay. So this is Faith No More, who's going on tour with Korn, by the way, at a show we're going to see, inshallah, if this coronavirus stuff
chills out,
gets chilled out. Inshallah, by that time we'll all be like, what a hype for no reason, and H1N1 and da 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 da. But things are looking, if you are disconcerted, dear listener, we understand. For sure.
The worst thing is the I went to our Walmart tonight and realized that the shelves are truly empty for the toilet paper. Luckily we didn't need any, but I wanted to go see what was going to happen, so yeah. If I remember to, I'll put the picture in here.
This, speaking of coronavirus, this is called Everything's Ruined, Faith No More. Let's do it.
Ready? And go.
I was not expecting this.
Ew! Thanks for letting me fuck your dad.
Wait, what?
Thanks for letting me fuck your dad.
Orion. very interesting lyrics.
Is it talking about like a literal kid?
I don't know if it's talking about a person who's become so commoditized by capitalism that you start talking about them as if they're money. Because, it specifically says capital.
Yeah.
Things worked out better than we had planned. Capital from boy, woman, and man. Mm-hmm. We're like ink and paper, numbers on a calculator, knew arithmetic so well, working overtime, complete what was assigned, we had to multiply ourselves. Which is what happens when you work overtime. You basically become a multiplier of yourself with the work that you're doing, and you get time in half. See, a bouncing little baby, a shiny copper penny.
Yep.
And then it says, it says he became a fat nickel so fast, but lyrics here say baby instead of he, which I think is probably correct.
Yeah.
Bouncing little baby, shiny copper penny, but then the baby becomes a fat nickel so fast. Then came puberty exponentially. Soon our boy became $1 million. Of course, he must invest. And then, a penny won't do. But he made us so proud, he made us rich. And how are we to know he's counterfeit? Now everything's ruined. So, these lyrics are obviously commentary on capitalism, but it could be a lot of things. It could be the band.
Yep.
In the sense of, the kind of loss of innocence of what happens when you start the band for the music, and then the lure of the money gets in there, and then at the end it's like everybody's rich, but nobody's really happy because it's all counterfeit, the things that you have to do to generate those millions, and then everything is ruined.
Yep.
So it could be specifically talking about the band itself, and so the band was the baby. See what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yep.
But and then,
I was thinking of it literally.
We're like ink and paper, numbers on a calculator. So
yeah,
feeling like a commodity. And
that's a terrible feeling.
Yeah, have you ever had that feeling?
I just remember when I was working my job, just feeling like it was like, I don't know, because I was working in a deli and I was just making sandwiches, and I just felt like, wow, I'm just here and I'm stuck here, and like, it's not like I don't know, like I can't describe it. It's probably not exactly like this, but like just that feeling of just filling in a gap and doing it. It probably felt like that more when I was a CNA.
Really?
And we were understaffed and overworked and underpaid and.
Yeah, I remember before I went off and
depending on the nurse too.
And did other things. I remember sitting in the office and just being like, man, this is. Like, it's really interesting, like, in this dynamic, like, speaking of baby, like, we literally sent our child away and cleared the house so that we could have uninterrupted time to get the folks the videos, because, we've got an entire system on Patreon, but it's, and we've had our wars together as far as us and like Patreon Alliance leaders, and we have team meetings and things like that, and we figure it out together. It's just different though, because I love music, and we love music, and we love talking and dissecting lyrics, and literature was my favorite thing to do in school, and so like, I love this, and to me this is meaningful. We get emails literally every day from people where like something, is meaning. So it's like meaningful work. Yeah. So even though there is that capital element to it, because like in my mind, like I don't really make a lot of distinctions between, church and state, natural versus supernatural, spiritual versus, like I don't make those distinctions. They're all kind of in the same bucket to me. So I don't have the idea that the minute that money gets into something, it corrupts it. I don't believe that. But what I do believe is that we get placed in a system, and I don't think anybody's figured it out yet. I don't think communists have figured it out. I don't think socialists have figured it out. Anytime you make a commentary on capitalism, people automatically think that you're like saying that socialism is like the problem. I don't think so. I think there are problems with any man-made system, because there's going to be gaps and sin and whatever, but I do think money becomes a problem, particularly in a capitalist society, is
I'm sorry, when you just said that, like, because the system is made up of people, like I got this visual of like somebody who's covered in paint, and if they have to do a project and not get paint on the project, but it's impossible because they're covered in paint.
Correct.
And so we are sinners, and so everything that we touch, it just gets it on there. Yeah.
Right.
But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, and it just so happens that I make the system work for people that are painted green. It just so happens that I'm painted green and everybody else is painted orange, and it sucks that the system doesn't work as well for you as for me. But hey, it's what we have.
Sounded like Jordan Peterson.
So like, shout out to the big homie. So like, the where the capitalism comes in as far as like a soul destroying type of thing is where it's like you get forced into it because of the economic system to take jobs that you are not passionate about, that you do not love genuinely, that you would not, because you know, when we were going, you know, to and from, you know, where we were going today, I was just listening to music. Like, you know, like I was going back and we're just listening to music for a straight hour. Like that's what we would do regardless.
Right.
But when you get stuck in a like, for example, like Dorian's working right now and it's like an entry level job, and it's not something he would be doing regardless. However, he's got a path, and you know, there are other things in our family business that he's being prepared for while that job is happening that he actually likes to do. And you know, he's very fortunate for that, and I'm glad, you know, he's experiencing some hard stuff over there being a young black kid in that situation. But you know, and you want to rescue him from it, but he's got to experience that stuff, because I don't want him to take what he's going to, you know, to run. I don't want him to take it for granted.
Yeah.
And I want him to understand why, because he was trained for this stuff. So experiencing some workplace racism or whatever, like, I think it's affecting you more than it's affecting me or him, because you're not used to that.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm used to it and I expect it, and I go, okay, well, you know, and he's been prepared for it for years, so, you know.
Yeah.
And he doesn't, and the
you
thing,
can't do that to my kid.
and the thing is he doesn't feel he's trapped there. He doesn't have a wife and 2 kids
right
that are completely dependent on him, to
Yeah.
where he is forced to be there. You know, he's not in that situation. He can leave anytime he wants, and he's got a prospect of something way bigger and way better for him in the future once, you know, certain things get lined up. So, like, that's kind of the worst thing to me about a capitalist system. It's where people are forced into situations that they otherwise would not be in.
Yeah.
Because you're basically under the gun all the time. And so then everything is ruined. The problem is that I don't think we've come up with, you know, a solution where that was probably the most interesting discussion I've ever had when you think about post-millennialism and economics in the context of the Bible boogie that we had, where it was like you weren't there, I don't think. It was a freestyle conversation. It was Peter.
I heard some of it.
Yeah, and Peter was talking about like the utopian society would be a society where you were able to earn a living based on what you were most passionate about. And so until we figure out that economics, and you know, we were talking about like video games, like YouTube and things like that, like where people are making millions of dollars playing video games.
Yeah.
And so like that, that's a very, very, so we were like developing that idea about like the advent of technology and things of that nature. It's like, these people are passionate. They play Fortnite 5, 6, 7 hours a day. They would be doing it anyway. And now they're able to generate revenue for themselves and their families based on their passion. And, you know, so you romanticize. This is kind of like the crazy thing where like the starving artist gets romanticized. But then the minute that the artist starts generating some capital, he's a sellout. And then he's got all this cognitive dissonance. So it's like all of us have been...
Not fair.
All of us have been trained to believe that that's the way it's supposed to be. You know, I was watching this, you know, Ben Shapiro clip, and you know, it's the whole debate about the means of production, and if you work in a pencil factory, you know, what are the workers' rights versus the owner? And the guy was saying, all you have is graphite and lead and steel and yada yada yada. You need the worker to create that pencil. Ben Shapiro's like, yeah, you need like 5 molecules of brain power to make that pencil, and there's literally millions of people who'll be willing to take your place. So I'm not going to pay you anything other than minimum wage. I'm the one that fronted all the debt. I'm the one that took all the economic risks. So therefore, I should. So, like, there's a whole back and forth, and I'm like, man, I get it. I understand both perspectives. I really do. But I'm like, we have yet to figure out, and maybe it's hundreds of years down the line, and I do think that this is something that's going to be a harbinger of whether or not we're in the millennium.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree.
As a post-millennial. So it would be the time when you do what you're most passionate about, and you can become wealthy by it. Because the thing is
Gary
like
Vee talks about that.
the thing is that, well, yeah, Gary Vee is a little bit different because he defines wealth by being able to live off what you're most passionate about, right? So that's like a philosophical understanding of wealth. I'm talking about an actual, like, real world. You're actually a wealthy person based doing exactly what you love to do. Because the thing is, people talk about, like, you get a guy like Floyd Mayweather, right? He's like, hard work, dedication, and you see him training his for boxing. But the thing is, he loves boxing.
Right.
So, are you working hard? Absolutely. But you're not working as hard as a person in a sweatshop. Even though, not because of the physical hurdle that has to be overcome, but because of the mental hurdle that needs to be overcome.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the difference. Like, I've been around dudes that have done some incredibly physically demanding stuff you would not believe. Like, dudes, it's just
really
ridiculous stuff. But they love doing it because they loved, the work. And they outworked, we outworked a lot of, like, the average, like, we work to the point where, like, your lifespan is lower and you got back issues and whatever.
No wonder when I'm like, you're always like, wow, why are you not, I'll take our business seriously and all that. Maybe that's...
You're soft!
Yeah, maybe that's why I'm like,
Yeah, I have no, like, equilibrium, like, by which to gauge when you're being mentally soft or when I'm just being, whatever. But the point is, when you love what you're doing, you're going to work hard. Like, you got a guy like Tom Brady. Like, Tom Brady's looking at film right now. Right now, he's looking at film. Because he loves what he's doing. Like, he's... So, whereas you get a guy like that's stuck in McDonald's, per se, and there's nothing wrong with McDonald's, but let's say he doesn't like making sandwiches.
Yeah.
Let's say it's his 4,000th sandwich.
Yeah, he's sick of fast food.
So, Shapiro is right. Like, it doesn't take a lot of, like, mental energy to put together a quarter pounder with cheese. But it does take a lot of mental energy to do the 4,000th one.
Oh, God.
And to do it in a good way.
Yep.
And that's where, like, the hyper-capitalists kind of miss the point of, like, yes, it's easy to do it just with the raw materials, but it is not easy to do it when you don't have any other options and you have zero passion for the work. So,
yeah, especially if it's something that probably feels like it's not really, it doesn't have a whole lot of value.
Right.
Like, I didn't like being a CNA. Matter of fact, I pretty much hated it. But I knew that I was doing a good service for people and I was helping people. So it was rewarding in that way. But I guess if you're feeding people fast food that's going to kill them early and stuff, you know what I mean? Like, there's not a whole lot of stuff that you can pull out of that and say, you know what I mean? Like, that would be mentally draining as well. Like, it's hard to find something that you're like...
Yeah, if you're one of those people that tries to find some sort of existential meaning in what you're doing and the work that you're doing, that's and, that you're exactly right. On the other hand, that same principle applies for, millionaires and billionaires. People think that, like, you become a billionaire just by sitting on it. Like, people become billionaires because they sacrifice everything else in their life to make that money. Like, $1 billion is a lot of freaking money. And no, you didn't become a billionaire because you stole from people, all this other, like, this is why, like I said in the Middle America video, the socialist title was not helpful for Bernie at all. Like, people... I've been in the presence of 2 billionaires. I've been in the presence of a lot of millionaires. But the billionaires were.
Not me.
It's a very, very specific type of personality trait. They're driven probably to the point of like being mentally ill. Although the same, I gotta tell you, the same mentality that the billionaires had was the same mentality that, as far as money goes, is the same mentality that me and folks in certain organizations had. It was just channeled differently, and you know, those guys were like 1%ers, and you know, we were 1%ers, and you know, like, you know, so. But if you've never been around those people and you only see these people on TV, people are like, oh, they steal money around. They have $1 billion. Like Trump inherited $1 million from his father. I don't care what you say. Trump, Jeff Bezos, those guys, Bill Gates, like they sacrificed their lives and the enjoyment of their millions to get to billions.
Yep.
Like. These people are extremely obsessively driven people.
I wonder what the drive is. I wonder if it's a dollar sign or if it's a security issue.
To some degree, I think it's kind of like a. I don't want to say that. My point is just simply to say that they're driven and they work hard in ways that people that criticize them have no idea.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think that they have the concept of a 40-hour work week.
No.
Or even an 80. It's just
correct.
Basically their life is their work.
Correct. They make no distinction at all between a work-life balance. And, you know, Gary Vee talks about this. Like, people ask him about a work-life balance. He's like, I don't have a work-life balance.
Right.
Now, you see me like I don't...
You're the same way.
I don't have one. Because once I left that other thing, like...
Yeah.
When you're always on all the time, and like you've got to be on 10, like the minute you get a phone call and you got to tell your kids bye and go off somewhere, like, and you have to be mentally prepared to, you know, whatever, and when you're on the plane or whatnot, like, you know, I can't, when I finally like left that behind, I was like, and you throw yourself into the work and whatever, and like you're working 24/7 all the time, and there's lots of people that don't want to do that. Like if you want to work, and so that's kind of like.
I wonder why.
Well, it's just not, you know. Even in the Old Testament, God said, "Okay, I'm going to force you to not work for a day." You know, and it's like, God, I could be making a lot of, you know. And it's like, nope, you cannot work for at least one day.
Yeah.
And so, I just think that it's a really difficult balance to like. I see. That's why I say I see both sides of it, because I've literally seen both groups of people. And the people that criticize billionaires have never been around them. So it's like, I think we do a good job in the medical community of saying you can't judge somebody unless you've been in their shoes. But we have no problem judging billionaires, is it? And look, man, like I'm not here to defend billionaires, but at the same time, like I also know like the tragic side of it.
Yeah.
Which is the inability to be satisfied. And sometimes I look, I'm like, what is the difference between a billionaire slaving away, not being... Remember that time we were hanging out with that kid and he sold these like exotic cars?
Yep.
And he said that these guys don't even drive these cars. It sits in the lot and then they take it back just because he goes, they work so much they don't even have time to enjoy the car.
But they put it there so that way they can tell their friends, I bought a whatever.
Right, because they got to find some way to attach some meaning to all the slave labor that they're doing. They become slaves of themselves, and that's the worst person to be enslaved to, man. So, look, I get it. Nobody's crying for the billionaire, and I'm not necessarily saying that you should cry for the billionaire. What I'm saying is, like, I understand, and I think this song could be interpreted both ways. We're like ink and paper, numbers on a calculator. Yeah, if you're a slave, you know, what did that famous quote? They said is, you know, Rockefeller. They said, Rockefeller, how much will be enough? And he said, $1 more. And if you think about like how nightmarish the implications of the those three words are, and how sad that is for him, like. You know,
his family.
It's slave labor and his family, because that was the one thing, because I was like so driven, alpha male, bunch of other alpha males, best in the world, blah 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 blah, and my kids were, you know, and then I'd come home, touchdown, save the city, blah blah blah, and my kids were completely, you know, and like you have to get to the point where you realize that something has to give, and a lot of these people, I've been around them. Their kids lose. Their family loses. Everybody loses. And then they get to 80 and 90 years old, and it's like, what the hell for?
Yeah.
And meanwhile, the guy at the sweatshop, we've been pitying him his whole life, and we should, because we should work for justice for those people. but they're surrounded by their families. They know what they're doing. They're like, hey, making this 9 millionth shoe isn't the most significant thing in the world, but I'm doing it to feed my kids. And they know that their dad's bringing home. So it's just it's a very, very hard thing, and it's very complex, and it's going to take a lot of very intelligent people. And one of the reasons I know that we're not there yet is because we can't stop demonizing each other. Like in the comments section, watch.
Yep.
Oh, the poor billionaire. Who cares? Trump, he was an idiot. He's a dummy. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, he's at the helm of the most powerful nation in the world. He's an idiot. Okay. It's the same thing right-wingers do with AOC. She's an idiot. She's dumb. Okay. Cenk tried to get a seat in Congress. He lost. Like, these are not easy things to accomplish. These are very special people. So I know that we're not at the maturity level yet to get to where we need to be, like to talk about Peter's utopian vision. And I think once we figure out how to combine all these systems so that we create a culture where everybody generates actual wealth doing what they actually love to do, then we'll be good. And then you'll take care of all the right-wingers saying people are just lazy, because people are going to work their tails off with something they're passionate about. And then you're going to get the left-wingers who stop demonizing rich people because they will become rich. I saw that. I had a friend. What's up, Alex? Years ago, he was a big, socialist, yada, yada, yada. And then he came into some money. And then all of a sudden he started talking about David Ramsey and fiscal responsibility and all this. I was like, you don't say!
Well, that was a switch.
That's very, I'll tell you why.
Very interesting.
Anyway, what do you get a song?
Oh, it was a 3 for me. I didn't really...
3 a stock for a lot.
Yeah, it wasn't really
That's why you were so silent while I was waxing poetic on economic policy. I can't wait for Ben Webb's little thingy. Did you see Ben Webb's response to my Middle America post? He's like, I'm gonna tear this apart. He ended up agreeing with like 3 of the 5 points.
That's why you should comment after you watch.
He's like, you're right there. Then he goes, you're right there. Partially right there. It's like, okay,
thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ben.
What are you giving it?
8.7.
Woo.
8.7. So, sonically it was kind of forgettable, but lyrically I thought that it was brilliant because it could have been done by both of those people. So,
shout out.
There you are.
I was going to say shout out to Nilesh. Shout out to 7.
Shout out to Nilesh. Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone.